Ladies and gentlemen, friends, pagans, pantheists, welcome. I'm with the Rosencomet Project, and I'm so excited to bring out a fellow Rosencomet Project friend of mine, and together we are going to bring out our special guest for the evening. So before we bring out our special guest, I'm going to bring on my friend Nancy Mitchell, also known as our very own Starwood Princess and Princess Petal. Let's bring on Nancy Mitchell. Hey Nancy, how are you?
Hey, hi Mandy. I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm excited to talk to Denny about this book.
I am
hanging out with you.
Yay! So, how did we meet Denny? How long has Denny been with us with Starwood?
I've only met Denny through Zoom. Last year was Denny's first Starwood for virtual Starwood.
Oh wow! And we loved him. He was so interesting.
We loved him, and he's immediately felt like part of the tribe. Like, you got to get this guy to Starwood.
Yay! Well, let's not wait any longer. Let's bring out the man of the hour, the only one, the unfortunately only, Mr. Denny Sargent, author of Werewolf Magic. Yay!
Oh! Full moon, by the way.
Is it a full moon tonight?
Tomorrow.
Oh wow, full moon eve.
Yeah. Pink moon.
That's right. Your timing was perfect.
Full pink moon.
Yay! So Denny, where are you calling in from?
I'm from Seattle, and it's lovely here right now. It's sunny. My garden is starting to sprout, and so I love where I live. I love the Pacific Northwest. We're big wolf fans, so everything is good.
I'm so excited to hear more about Werewolf Magic and you know all the things. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into Werewolf Magic?
Sure. So, I mean, this is the book just to show people what it is. And I know when people see it in the store, they're like, what is that? So first I want to say that I've been involved in magic. I'm a third degree Welsh trad from the 70s and the 80s. I've been involved in paganism, neo-paganism, Church of All Worlds. I could go on and on. You can look on my website. And you can see what I've been doing forever. So I've been involved in alternative spirituality forever. And werewolves were something that I enjoyed as a hobby, just for fun, but I never really connected magic and paganism and witchcraft and alternative religions and animism with that. So I've written a bunch of books about different things. My first book, which I'm really proud of, is called Global Ritualism, which is a survey of animistic and pagan religions around the world. And so I've been deeply involved in this, both as an intellectual subject, writing books and lecturing, but also because I'm vastly curious. I've also traveled a lot. I've traveled to about 30 countries, and every country I go to, I bump into by accident, right? Magical people. And I've had very good luck in just meeting people who were deeply involved in indigenous magical, pagan, and animistic traditions. So we are a part of a much wider world than I think a lot of people know. So I've run into shamans. I just want to mention shamans a little bit before I go into werewolf magic. So, because it is kind of a strange book. I mean, people look at me and they think I'm a nut, which I am, but I'm an intelligent, educated nut, right? So, my friends, I ran into Olchi shamans. The Olchi are Siberian tribal people, and I had a friend here who was also involved in magic who brought over the Olchi to Seattle, and they had never been to America before. They'd never left Siberia before, and I got to meet them and work with them and interview them for Pangaea magazine. Some of you might remember Pangaea. I had a column in Pangaea magazine for years called Worldwide Paganism. So I've been involved in a lot of stuff for a long time. So anyway, I met these shamans, and it was fascinating to talk to real shamans as opposed to so many Americans, take a class and call themselves shamans. Shamanism is a really deep, important part of tribal cultures, indigenous cultures, and so I never use the term unless I'm dealing with or referencing people who are legit shamans within their own tradition. So I hung out with them, and then when I was in Guatemala, I by chance ran into a shaman, and we recognized each other as magical people. And I ended up hanging out with a whole group of shamans and going to shamanic festivals that were intense and powerful and crazy and wild and beyond description. So I had that in my head. How Werewolf Magic happened was I went through a hideous time in my life. I lost everything. My wife passed, and I lost the house. I lost everything. My job, and then soon afterwards, my job disappeared. Teaching university. I teach linguistics and methodology and pedagogy. I train teachers to teach language. So it has nothing to do with any of this other stuff. But so I was at a low ebb. I mean, my life was in shatters, and I had no money, and I was absolutely despondent and depressed, and thought that my life was over. And but I kept meditating, and in meditation, the three-eyed wolf showed up, and I didn't know what this was. It just kept showing up and sort of lurking in my meditations. And finally, I was literally at the end of my rope, and I just said, "Look, I don't know what you are, who you are, but I could use some help." And it basically showed up and said, "You need to get out into the forest, and you need to shred and get rid of your life. You need to start over, or you're going to die." And it wasn't actually that far off. And so I did. If the intro of my book tells the sort of story of how I lost my shit completely and kind of had a breakdown and threw a bunch of stuff in a car and drove up into the mountains, which from Seattle is like 2 hours, and I'm in wilderness, and just threw myself at the mercy of the wildness, and howled and invoked this wolf spirit, and built a fire and danced around naked, and was insane and lost it, and received this incredible input of gnosis, of wisdom and power, and made this direct contact with nature, and shredded my ego and shredded who I was, and started and was nothing. And then what that led me to was the fact that I'm an animal. We're all animals, right? We all talk about intellectually that we're animals, but we really don't believe it. Like, we really think, because our whole lives we've been trained and taught that we are separate from animals, that God made us in our image, in His image, that we are not animals, that nature and animals are there for us to do with as we will, right? That we are superior to animals. We get it all the time. We get it constantly, subliminally, and now I really realize subliminally. Don't eat like a pig. You're acting like animals. Think of all the things your parents say to you. You need to, civilize. You need to be civilized when you go see your parents, and blah 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 blah. So when I realized, like, the wall I was hitting, the wall that so many people hit, the wall that makes us crazy and neurotic and do stupid things like destroy our environment, is we have given up and walled off the idea that we are animals. And this magical animistic entity showed me that it was in fact a reflection of my animal self, the deepest, most primal part of my brain, which is still operating as an animal, even though my higher cortex has walled it off. Anything that we don't like, that we think is weird or wrong, we suppress. And then it comes out as neuroses, it comes out as negative behaviors. So, I mean, the main message of the werewolf is that we are all werewolves, right? We are all animals, and 90% of our problems and our sadnesses and our neuroses is we think we have to be civilized. And civilization is a construct created by a culture that wants us to do what it wants us to do. Be good workers, be good kids, be good parents, follow the rules, right? That the constraints we think are important are not natural. Now, who knows this is native peoples of all kinds of different cultures that I have visited, whether it's in rural Guatemala, or I lived in Japan for 4 years, or rural Japan, where they believe in spirits and they believe in gods. In Thailand, I've been to Thailand 6 times. They believe in spirits, they believe in these things, and they know that they're part of nature, and they know that they're part of both the physical part of nature, because we're living in it, we're animals, we're eating and doing what we're doing, but also the spiritual part of nature. So if you talk to Native Americans who were willing to have this conversation with you, or when I was in Australia talking to Aboriginals there, they think of animals as their ancestors, as other people. People in tribal cultures refer to animals as their mentors, their teachers, and also their brothers and sisters. And therefore, when they kill a deer to eat, they ask the deer if it's okay, and they honor the deer for giving up its life to feed them. In other words, they're still connected with the ecosystem. So we've destroyed our planet. Mostly Western civilization has destroyed our planet, and because we see it as something separate than us.
Amen. Yeah.
And so that's the message of the book. But where I went with this is, okay, how can I let this animal out? And what I discovered was there's been a history. I mean, it's maybe a 10 to 12,000 year old history of werewolf cults, of people who consciously have worked with the wolf and let it out, and in a number of ways. And then the book, this was not going to be a book, okay? This was me doing my own psychotherapy for 4 years. And by the end of the 3rd year, I had found all these pieces that I brought together. Like, what does this mean to be a werewolf? Or why were there cults in ancient Greece and cults in ancient Rome? And the Lupercalia festival was one of the largest festivals in Rome, and it was all the priests were called Luperci, werewolves. Like, what is this, right?
That's one of my biggest questions. I think, Nancy and I are both interested. Like, what are the actual practices? Like, what are the rituals? How do you manifest, the act of engaging in werewolf magic?
So that was my question, right? I'm like, at first, because I'm a historian, my master's is ancient history, right? So I'm a historian, and I'm like, holy shit, excuse my language, there's werewolf cults everywhere. Like, no matter where I go, there's these werewolf cults. And I'm finding them, like in Guatemala, I'm finding them in Mexico. So what is this? They're all about shape-shifting, and it all goes back to ancient animism, right? And so what is this? Like, what is shape-shifting, and how do you do that? And, you're not going to be like these horror movies, like, hair grows up and your nose comes out, and which I wish, right? But no. So what is this? So
you're saying if I engage tonight or tomorrow, since tomorrow is the full moon, in the actual practice of werewolf magic, I don't get full body hair? That's not part of the practice?
Hey, if you do, you win. If you do, call me, okay? And photos, or it didn't happen. But it's really so. All right, let me take you down a little bit of the rabbit hole of how I found this stuff. Right. So
I need to know. I mean, I don't even know how you start studying a thing.
Well, first thing you do is you get my book, okay? But there we go. But aside from that, so the first part of the book is all history, because that's where I went, and then I was like, okay, how do you do this? Then when I stumbled on, I started going into the witchcraft trial documents, which most people don't read. As someone who's a practicing, witch, I was like, among many other things, I was like, wow. I started to realize, like, literally 60%, some maybe 70% of people who were accused of witchcraft under the persecutions were also accused of werewolfism. So there's a deep deep interconnection between they called it werewolfery, one of my favorite words. So between werewolfery and witchcraft. When the church arrested people, they almost very often accused them of both. So then I was really piqued. I mean, my interest was really piqued. I was like, whoa, wait, witches were accused of werewolfism? And then I dug deep on that and started realizing that what it all boiled down to was that there's shamanic or survival shamanic practices in Europe in these covens who were pagan, who were trying to worship the old ways and were being exterminated. And this shamanic shape-shifting came down through all these ancient cultures, through Greece, where it was practiced quite a bit, through Rome. In Celtic, almost all the Celtic countries, werewolves are even today seen as positive. They were warriors, they were protectors, right? And there are certain Irish tribes that still are all considered to be werewolves. I mean, I could go on and on. Clearly, I've gone down this hole. So, but the root was shamanic practices, right? So that's when I started researching stuff I already had from talking to the old chief, from talking to shamanic people in Guatemala. And I started realizing, oh, okay, what survived in witchcraft in Europe were shamanic techniques that survived within small groups and families on how to do the shape-shifting. And the flying ointment that the witches used to put on to go to the Sabbat, right, is exactly the same formulas as werewolf transition formulas.
Those were psychotropic, right? So
Correct.
Like the flying that they were doing was
Correct.
It from an outside perspective in their minds.
Right. Well, it was authentically real to them.
Well, that's why I said from an outside perspective. So if you're looking at somebody smearing the ointment on, they look like they're just sitting there tripping balls.
Right.
But, you know, if you're engaging in spiritual practice, then you're going on a journey.
So the link there is I have hundreds of stories of, like, for example, in Greece and Rome, historians believed this werewolfism was a big deal. They knew it. Like major historians like Herodotus and Roman historians all said no, this is a real thing, and including Petronius had a whole story. He's a famous historian. He had a story he hired a mercenary to go with him at night because he had to go. He was doing trade. He was going from Rome to another city, and halfway there, the soldier kind of suddenly said, "Oh, I've got to go," and he took off all his clothes, turned into a werewolf, and ran away. And
Best
Petronius,
excuse ever,
right? And Petronius was like, "What the hell?" I'm sure the Roman equivalent of like, "What? WTF?" Right? Went a little bit further, stopped at a farmhouse and said, "Listen, my guy disappeared on me. Can I spend the night here?" And the guy said, "Yeah." But there was a lot of screaming and yelling and running around. He said, "Is everything okay?" He goes, "Well, a wolf just attacked my sheep, but we stabbed him with a spear." So he's like, "Oh, okay." Next day he does his trade. He goes back home. He's angry at this guy for running away from him. He goes to his house. He's lying in bed with a spear wound in his neck. And he looked, and he was totally straight. He was like, "Yeah, I was a werewolf and I attacked the sheep and they stabbed me." Okay.
As you do.
As you do. And the punchline of this is over and over and over again, werewolves that are actually attacked by someone, stabbed or shot, when they track down the person, they're lying in bed with that wound. So this added another layer. Then I dug deeper still, and I found some really good sources that talked about what, like in the Norse books, in the Eddas, they are very straightforward about werewolfism, and it's a huge part of Nordic culture. And you've heard of berserkers. There were two kinds of berserkers.
They paint themselves blue with the woad. That's Scottish, though. That's different.
Those are pics. This is in Nordic culture. the followers of Odin, who are also warriors but also sorcerers, if they had the right demeanor, could be berserkers. Bersark means wearing the bear skin, or they were ulfsarkers. They were ulfsark. Ulfsark means wearing the wolf skin, and they literally would shapeshift. They would wear the skin, shapeshift, not physically grow fur, but become bigger, stronger, and impervious. And they were the most kick-ass warriors that the Vikings had. There's many stories about them wading into and just killing left and right, having arrows in them, and it didn't faze them at all, and they healed very quickly. So, are you actually changing into a bear or a wolf? Not exactly. Are you bringing up your animal spirit and letting it possess you, your lower cortex, your animal self, to the point where you're bigger, stronger, and impervious to pain? That seemed to be the thread in all of these, right? So then it was like, all right, how is this done? That was my next question. Was now, in the meantime, every full moon I was going out into the woods. I was ripping off all my clothes, and I was doing the ritual work as I learned it. And each time I did it, I got more information from the wolf spirit, from my animal spirit, from the gods. And then I started to realize the primordial deity forms that were helping me were the Lord of the Forest, who's often referred to in werewolf texts, and the Earth Mother, and the Moon Mother. So incorporated in the book are Artemis, Selene, and Hecate. And the Lord of the Forest has many names, and I use Gaia for the earth. But these are the deity forms that came and said, I will teach you how to do this. Like, this is how you do it.
That was actually one of my other questions was, what other feral deity forms, are there other feral deity forms you celebrate besides the wolf and the werewolf?
Well, the reason the werewolf came to me, and this is typical in shamanism. Shamanism is not something you learn; it's something you're born with. So when I interviewed Nadiajda, who was a shaman in the Ulchi tribe, and I said,
"Where was that? Where's the Ulchi tribe?"
They're in Siberia.
Okay.
They call themselves the Nani Doro, and they don't even speak Russian. They only speak Ulchi. Anyway, when I talked to her about that, I said, well, so, what do you think about American shamans, quote unquote? She started laughing. She says, who in their right mind would want to be a shaman? These people are nuts. And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, being a shaman is miserable. The spirits come, we know someone's a shaman when they're a little kid. The animal spirits start to come and talk to them. And she said, I remember going to my mom and saying, I keep hearing these voices, it's the animals, and my parents started crying. And they said, oh my God, she's a shaman. Oh no, she'll never get married. She's going to have a short life. And they were sobbing. So she told me all these stories, and I was like, okay. She said, look, because I've known I was a pagan and that there were other entities since I was a little kid. Lots of us have. This is a normal story in the wider world, by the way. So the wolf came to me. I didn't ask for a wolf spirit. I wasn't looking for a wolf spirit. I've always been attracted to werewolves. I've always loved werewolves, and I'm an animal person, and I've always had dogs, but it came to me. If it had come as a bear or something else, it would have been a different thing, right? So my tilitary helper is this wolf spirit, right? And that was the painting that I showed you. That's one of my paintings. That is the wolf spirit.
I'm going to bring that up then. While we're talking about that.
Yeah. You might as well see this. So right. So I eventually created that. That's done on wood, painted on wood with acrylics and ink. And that is the three-eyed wolf that came to me. The symbols you see there are all the werewolf magic symbols that I use in my book that also came to me at various times. Some are traditional. The pentagram that you see in werewolf movies on the palm is actually a real deal. And the thing that's on the forehead is a very, very old rune called the Eye of the Wolf. The Triskel and the other symbols are associated with werewolves and werewolfism, different cultures, mostly Nordic and Celtic. And then there's a couple there that came through me. The lunar one is for the goddesses, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I have. I just finished doing a whole bunch of these paintings on wood. They're on my website right now. I'm on a show right now called Magical Feral with other people. So if you go to werewolfmagic.com, you can see my art. I have a lot of feral creatures, including some from Japan that I was very resonant with, which is like Kitsune, the fox spirit, or Oni, the troll, kind of the troll spirit, or Tengu, the mountain spirit. So when I was in Japan, I studied Shinto and Animism there as well, because I can't get enough, apparently. So as with every full moon, as I went deeper and deeper into this gnosis that I was doing, and plus gathering information, it suddenly, my friends were like, "One, you're nuts," and then they started seeing the stuff I was doing. They said, "Oh, you should write a book." I'm like, "No, I don't want to write a book."
I just want to call your attention. One of our commenters, our friend Kim Fitch Tharp, says the moon is coming up for her as you are speaking here. She's in Ohio, I believe. So,
get out there and howl. You know what's hilarious? During COVID, I don't know if you know this, there was a huge Facebook group. I don't know if they're still around, called Howl at 8 p.m. And they had 80,000 members. Isn't that amazing?
Ow! Kim says, ow!
I'm telling you.
And now she's saying full moon madness.
Hey, listen, if you want to be happier, more centered, and become part of your environment, because you're not. I mean, if you're listening to me and you're not actually out there feeling the trees and feeling the Gaia and feeling this on a regular basis, you're disconnected from your ecosystem. If you want to be the path to reconnecting with Gaia and reconnecting with the ecosystem is to bring up and work with your animal self. It is your animal that connects with the ecosystem, not your brain, not your intellect, not your library of occult books. That's not going to help you connect with your ecosystem. And be happy. I mean, animals like wolves spend a large part of their time playing. Otters play. We spend our lives working to work, and then buying stuff because we're unhappy, because we know that we're not scratching an itch we need to scratch, because for goodness sake, we're in these boxes. I mean, I rant and rave about civilization and education. There's only one way to get out of it, and that's to invoke your animal self and let it take over your conscious mind for a while. And that's what shape-shifting is about. Now, the other thing about shape-shifting is, I told you these stories about werewolves who get injured as a werewolf and then they show up as humans with injuries, right? So what I'm finding reading about magical, like then I started getting information about Slavic werewolves, and there's a lot more still in writing about that, traditional Slavic witchcraft and the whatnot. And this shows up again and again and again in the stories in Celtic, Slavic, and also in the witchcraft trial documents, is that people who are doing flying ointment and appear to just go comatose, this is what werewolves look like. They would do trance work. They would do trance work with drums and dancing and exhaustion, and then rub some sort of psychotropic on them. But it's not necessary. They would go into a fugue state, and then when they were really going to project as a wolf, I mean, this is an astral projection. Then we can talk about fetch magic too, which is tied into all this. But
what's fetch magic?
Well, wait a minute. Let's get to it. Well, they would go into a comatose state, astral project in the form of a wolf, and that was what people saw, was the werewolf, right? So they would often hide in cemeteries so that their body wouldn't be found, because especially during the Christian era, if you were found in a trance, then you would immediately be accused of witchcraft, right? Stuff like that. So anyway, And so fetch magic is if you're involved in witchcraft, fetch magic is a big part of witchcraft. Fetch magic was the idea that you would have a familiar, or you would have a spirit that you could work with. Lots of times the spirit was in the form of a wolf. A lot of witches said they rode a wolf to the Sabbath, or they became a werewolf and went to the Sabbath. So what that meant was either they were astrally projecting in the form of a wolf or a werewolf, or they were projecting and this is a key part of the book that it gets complicated, but historians have been talking forever about the fact that in ancient Greece and Egypt and whatnot, there are several parts of the soul. Not just, we have basically, you've got your body and your spirit, and that's it, right? Your body and your soul. But there's another one that is very common, and academics call it the double. The double is the ability to project what we consider astral projection, right? When you're astral projecting, what are you projecting? You're not projecting your soul. You're projecting this energetic field that we have. You've trained heavily with somebody who knows what they're doing, and you're able to project that and do things like, you can either do it mentally. People do vision quest. They do astral projection to do, what do they call it? I can't remember what I'm saying. Far sight seeing, visionary work, right?
Remote viewing.
That's it. Thank you. Remote viewers. So that's you're essentially using you're projecting that double, and this is in so many different cultures. It's not just, it sounds flaky, but you can read it in ancient Greek. You can in my biography I can tell you where you can go and see these things. You can read them. So, but you can also project your double in a particular form if you had been trained to do that for many years. And a wolf was a very common one. So then you get down to there's bringing it down. There's 3 levels of shapeshifting. One, you bring up your animal self and you bring up that power, and you change out your upper cortex, higher functioning for lower functioning, and you exist in that form, which is what took me years to practice, but I'd get to the point where I was literally like in that animal state. And then all of a sudden I could see at night. I could hear things that I didn't used to be able to hear. Things really happen when you're in that state, because your animal brain is registering all these things, but your cognitive higher brain is blocking all of it so that you can concentrate on whatever, I don't know, computer science, whatever. But when you shut that down and you let your pure animal self, all of a sudden you hear everything. And I would do things, I would rip off my clothes at night. I'd have a bonfire and I'd go running off into the woods.
Yeah, you need to come to Starwood next year, man. I know you can't come this year, but next year you got to come and run around the fire with us with your bad self.
Here's the thing. By then, the second book will be out, which is going to be Werewolf Magick, which is I'm already calling it.
I'm sure you're going to find plenty of pack members.
People are
loving this, by the way. I just want to let you know. Our friend Anna says hi. Anna Grappone's watching.
Oh, nice, great.
And also Angie Yelton, who makes these beautiful little bonfire ceramic things. She's watching,
cool.
And she says so many of these stories are so familiar. She's been reading about werewolves and witches her whole life. So everybody, check out his book. Because it's fascinating. Oh, and Princess Lee says this is so cool.
I know. Listen, you're going to look at that book. You're going to go, what the blank? But if you're involved, if you're involved in paganism or witchcraft, there's a lot in here about it. In fact, the most depressing part was going through the witchcraft trial documents, which most people don't do.
That sounds so depressing. I never thought about the records and the court documents from that time, when they were burning us and ducking us and all the things.
Well, the sad thing is, it's really all we have. But if you dig deep and you read these things and you read between the lines, people were saying things that were pretty straight. I quote some in here that are pretty amazing about like this one witchcraft coven that they were being tortured. But they talked about this coven that did certain things, and part of their coven practice was shape-shifting into wolves. And there are certain things that everybody did. They had a piece of wolf skin they tied around, and they had a flying ointment. Well, we know, I mean, now digging even deeper, we know that most of the flying ointment ingredients are dangerous, and I don't even print the formulas because I don't want anybody using them. But they were the psychoactive ingredients they had in Europe at the time.
Well, and also, I mean, getting back to what you were saying earlier about the importance of recognizing indigenous practitioners, right. And, you know, seeking out this knowledge from authentic sources and respecting, you know, from where these things come, you know, I think it's very smart that you don't print the recipe for the thing in the book, because if somebody really wants to pursue that knowledge, they should go learn from the source and do all the things, you know.
I don't claim what I'm doing in shamanism.
You're writing a book and you're telling us about it, but I'm saying people should go to shamans for this information if they think they need to learn it.
There are safer psychedelics that can be used to enhance werewolf magic and shapeshifting.
Well, yeah, we are in the 21st century now.
We are.
20, you know, so or 22nd. I don't know where we are exactly in time,
they used to use Amanita muscaria a lot throughout Europe.
Amanita kills.
But Amanita kills. But right now, for example, in Oregon, psilocybin is legal, and it's going to be legal here in Washington probably within a month or two.
Yeah, it's legal. It's becoming legal in a couple places, I think.
So I'm quite clear in my book, don't do illegal drugs. But if they're illegal in your you know, you may want to think about it or find other ways of trance-inducing. And I offer many ways of trance-inducing.
Hey, can we talk about your artwork first, or a little bit? I want to. Oh, we talked about. You have an art show, don't you? An art show.
I do.
And that's, we actually looked at this piece already, but this is one of many pieces in a series.
That's right.
And you have other artists too, you said.
I do. And actually, here, this is the flyer for the show.
Let me try and.
It's called Magical Feral, and it's at Gargoyle Statuary, which is in Seattle. And it's I and two other friends.
What's called Gargoyle Statuary?
Gargoyle Statuary. And they have lots of wonderful magical things.
I'll look for their website.
And I should cover the wolf, but so the image in the middle is one of my pieces based on a shape-shifting shamanic image from a cave painting that's 20,000 years old. And my compatriots are still, Jessica Geiger and Keith Amrak Waters. And they're wonderful artists, and all of us are bitten by the feral bug. We've all done. So Keith does wonderful werewolf images, so which I bought, of course. I have to have one. So I want to just talk about the three ways of shape-shifting that are in my book. One is very light, and the key to it, I found out, and the wolf spirit told me, and I've dug it up in other places, is no language. The key to all of this is getting out of your intellectual headspace. So my rituals, 90% of my rituals there's no words. So I have a different lingo, and I call it werewolf lingo because I can't resist. And it's growls, howls, barks, and they're either up or down. So for example, if I'm for invoking, I do for invoking, I do bring it down, right? Growling and rhythm and growling, like rocking and growling, helps get you into space. But there's up growling and down growling. It's all in. I worked out a whole.
I want to hear as a musician. I just want to hear a whole, like a suite of songs, like a concerto of of wolf emotions, wolf
Oh yeah.
vocations.
Oh no, it's actually so I wrote this Werewolf Magic book. It took me 4 years. I didn't think anybody would care. I went to PantheaCon and I met with a couple of editors who were acquisition editors, and they were very nice people, and I knew them. And I had five books I wanted to sell. And as a joke, I brought a Werewolf Magic proposal too, thinking, yeah, no, nobody's good. This is too flaky. I had one on Tantra and one on this and one on that. Anyway, and they would look through and they went, no. Oh, Werewolf Magic, tell me about this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Seriously, that's the one you picked? And they took it like then and there. I was like, all right. So as I wrote the book, I was imagining, like, okay, individual work and how do you do it, and then what ritual work. But then what about if there's a group of people? And I started mixing in pack stuff, and they said, no, it's too much. So I pulled all that out and just kept it. Here's what Werewolf Magic is. Here's what it's about. Here's how it's real and it's interconnected. Here's how it's been part of our history, whether you're Celtic or have German blood or Swedish blood, or if you have any European descent at all, or if you're from other countries. There are were animals in every single country. In Morocco, it was were hyenas. Everywhere I went.
So
in Africa, were lions.
I want to share that image you shared with me, the oldest known picture. Can we do that?
Please.
Will you tell us about this image?
I will. This is the oldest depiction of a werewolf. And it's from
come back. I left. Oh gosh, come back. There you are.
It's a cave painting from a cave in Portugal. It's 40,000 years old. It is clearly this is what anthropologists call a theomorph. A theomorph are these cave paintings, these paintings where people are shown half animal, half human. This is the oldest werewolf one. It is identified quite clearly as a werewolf, and he's all pumped up. He's done his shape shifting, and he's going hunting. And what that means, he's going to be a lot more successful with his animal, wearing the wolf skin in his animal consciousness than he would as just a clueless human, right? So I'm really proud of that one. And there's in my book, I have great quotes from the anthropologists who found it, who talked about theomorphs and talk about it, and they talk about it as the roots of animism. So animistic, all of us owe animism and animistic tribal cultures a great deal of respect, because everything we do, from paganism to witchcraft, etc., or anything, neo-paganism, it's all based originally on animistic traditions. So
where did you say this was found? You said it was 20,000 years old, I think?
40,000 years
40,000. Okay, wow. And where is it?
In a cave in Portugal.
Oh, wow.
I noted in my book because it's the earliest thing I could find. I said, I wonder how far back werewolves go. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's about as far back as anything goes. So I'm going to be like, all right, that's fine. You see a lot of these petroglyphs with horned shamans or horned warriors who are half buffalo or half bison or are part lion. You see a lot of these theomorphs, and it's not uncommon. And living in Japan, theomorphs were everywhere. A lot of the kami-sama, a lot of the spirits, a lot of the yokai are half animal, half human. And a lot of Japanese believe, and a lot of the anime shows this, they believe there are people who are genetically part wolf or are part, another animal. So, and they truly believe this. You ask people.
I think I've read both, half fox people.
Kitsune.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Kitsune, yeah. That's right. Yeah, and Tanuki are another one. Yeah, I've seen priests in Japan, Shinto priests in Japan, who were deeply involved in this sort of thing. Because Japanese religion Shinto comes right out of animism. It still is animism. And so Same, you know, I'm a big fan of Voodoo, and I'm a Voodoo sant. I have a connection with a temple.
Is that why you made the altar? Is that why you made the werewolf altar?
Oh no, I make altars all the time.
Well, I know that's a practice of. Can I? So
yeah, sure.
Okay,
Sure.
Cool.
So the werewolf altar, it's pretty lurid. The werewolf altar started as a very small little place for me to honor the wolf spirit that was guiding me, and it started to collect. So the one image I can't really point to it, but there's a smaller image of a werewolf that looks like it's meditating with 3 eyes. That was done for me by an artist in Italy. When I described to him what was happening to me 4 years ago, he drew that. And so that's kind of my favorite image. This is my werewolf costume that I ritually wear every Halloween to scare the living daylights out of children. And then I just have other artists that I'm involved with have contributed werewolves, and I just started to grow. So normally I do my werewolf magic work outside, but sometimes I can't, or sometimes I have other things I want to be doing with it. And this is what I do. I do my work here. So it's a lot of things you'll see. There's images of the moon goddess, and then there's images of Gaia. And this is expanding into more of a feral altar. I now have Sasquatch there and a few other things. So
tell me about Sasquatch. You know, what's your concept of Sasquatch?
Sasquatch. A lot of these feral god forms. You know, are they real? Are they not real? They're real to indigenous people. If you go in my state and you talk to Native Americans, many of the ones I have talked to have told me that Sasquatch is a spirit. It goes all the way back. It's a tribal spirit of the woods. You know, and a lot of people here where I live truly believe that they physically exist. I had a friend of a friend who actually had an encounter with one, and this thing started throwing rocks at them, and they disappeared. They ran away because they saw this big hulking thing throwing boulders at them, and they ran away, and they came back, and their canoe was at the top of a tree. So,
wow.
So you tell me what that is. I don't know.
I would run. They made the right decision.
Right.
Yeah, they made the right decision.
So whether it's a real creature, whether it's a cryptid or a real creature or not, the fact is that it's everywhere. Like you can call it a Yeti, you can call it a Sasquatch, you can call it a Bigfoot, you can call it Zanqua, but this idea of these big, hairy, ape-like semi-humans are all over. I mean, it's not just American, it's not just, you know, a few things. So what are they? Like in Japan, they have an issue with that because they believe in nature spirits. It's like, they have a different name for it. It's called Higama, I think. Higama is their Sasquatch, which it looks exactly the same. And they'll be like, there's spirits in the river. You have to be careful. There's spirits. So if you're in a culture that acknowledges there are spiritual entities all over, and that they're interpenetrate our culture, then it's not a big deal. But you know. But if you're in a Judeo-Christian culture, no, those things don't exist. No. That, you know, you're born.
Yeah, I'm so over colonizer culture.
Yeah,
I'm so over it. I think the country's over it too.
So it's interesting to me. Like, I don't know. So this is where I go. This is I don't want to make a big deal about my werewolf altar, but I think it's an important thing.
I love it.
In pack magic, I talk about it a lot more. Because I think there should be like that image that you showed of my 3-eyed wolf. That's my wolf icon, and I think it's important to have an icon, an image, to work around with whatever you're doing. You know, I mean, I have several altars. I have a tantric altar over here that's, you know, I don't know if you can see it or not, but
and because you want to tell us that, can you tell us a little bit about the other books you wrote? Because you mentioned tantric and.
Oh my goodness. So,
I would like to know. I mean, I'd like our listening audience to know, because we're getting lots of nice comments here. Somebody named David says He's hello from Cleveland. This is very interesting and intriguing, learning a lot, and will purchase the book. Also, he noted the moon is rising. The moon is rising as we speak. The moon is rising. And, I don't know what Greg Nicholson meant, but Greg Nicholson has volunteered as tribute for next year. I don't know if that's a practice in Werewolf Magic or not. But if you do, apparently you have a tribute.
Hey, you know what? If you are dancing naked around a fire in the middle of the woods a year from now, you win.
Preach.
That's it.
I just want a little shout out to my friend Sue Barbara. She's a beautiful entertainer from West Virginia. Hey, doll.
Nice. So wait a minute. You asked me a question. Oh, my books.
Your books. Tell me about the books. All the books.
Oh my goodness, I have so many of them.
All the altars. All the books.
Do you want me to show you a couple? I can show you.
Sure. Yeah. Show us a couple. And people should go to Werewolf Magick, spelled with a K, magic with a K.
That's right.
To check out. It's in the thingy scrolling along the bottom there. Werewolfmagic.com.
Yeah.
All the books, all the things.
Okay. So I've got a few here. I don't have all my books. I've written about 13 books. The book I really want to show you is that I think most of your people would love to see, and I really want it to get out more, is Global Ritualism. And I do not seem to have a copy floating around right now.
We believe you. Global Ritualism.
Global Ritualism. So if you go to werewolfmagic.com, you'll see all the books. Not all my books, but you'll see the most important ones. So this is one I presented at a Pantheacon, and also at Starwood. And I
the Book of the Horned One. Gate of Pan Magic. Love it. So
this is a book that's about 30 years worth of research in my personal life, because Pan is my tutelary deity. I sometimes write under the pen name Aion 131. So it's beautiful. I love this book because my friend Oriel did the artwork for it, and it's stunning.
It's beautiful. I love the green against the black.
Yeah, I mean you can see that the artwork is amazing. So that's
wow.
Yeah, no, he's a professional artist. His stuff is shockingly beautiful. Let's see if I have anything else here to show, because I really love his stuff. I love his Pan. I have a tattoo of Pan on my leg by him. Like let's see.
Maybe try and hold it up to the. Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is an entire system of Pan magic. This is a book I wrote about guardian angels. I'm a big fan of ceremonial magic. I did the ritual called Knowledge and Conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel. It took me a while to figure out exactly how to do the ritual. So this is a book I wrote on the Nagas, because I'm a tantric. I've been a tantric since 1980, and I do stuff, and I fell in love with serpent spirits, the Nagas. All my books are books I wrote because I was curious about something, and I went down the rabbit hole, and before I knew it, I had a book.
Well, and you're an academic. I mean, you're not just coming out of left field. I mean, you actually have some degrees in the stuff. You teach it at a university level.
I keep one foot in left field.
You got it. So I don't know what Kim bought, but Kim Fitchtharp says she bought it. It's a wealth of information. I think she was talking about the Pan book, but
the Pan book? Oh,
yeah,
good.
I think that's when that's when she posted it anyways.
So I mean, none of my books make much money, but they make me happy, and occasionally people like them, so it makes me happy. So that's it. But Pack Magic is going to be a kicker, because I went to how I started really getting into that was I went to Pantheacon. I did a presentation on Pan Magic, and it ended early, and I said, I've got some notes here for my Werewolf Pack Magic stuff. Do you guys want to try it? I had 70, 80 people. Some of them left and said, no, we're tired, blah blah blah, and then most of them stayed, and they were like, yeah, bring it. So I was like, okay, let's see how this works. So I did some really simple shape-shifting stuff with rhythmic rocking and growling. I taught them how to howl, how to bark, how to up-howl. I taught them all that stuff. And I said, well, usually this takes months and months and months to get into the groove. But once I had 80 people doing it, it was astounding. All of a sudden, everything went bam. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so, again, they all got it because everybody's listening to everybody. So they're all like, rrr, rrr, And after a while, I'm like, okay, you guys got it. So then I did an entire ritual where we did the 4 quarters with upgrowling. We did the banishing with barking and growling. We did the invocations with howling. We did the whole ritual with maybe 4 or 5 words, and the rest completely animalistic noises. And it was super powerful.
Yeah, and you need to bring that to Brush, or you need to bring that to Starwood.
Absolutely, I do. Oh no, and plus I'm adding more to the book now, so I will have the book by then, Werewolf Magic, which in my head I'm calling a werewolf grimoire or a werewolf book of shadows, right? So I'm really having. So I walked out of that like they went running out, screaming and howling and going running amok, and I'm like, all right, this works. I want to unleash everybody's animal spirit and make them run naked through the woods. Yes. Oh, did I lose her?
I think so. You still got me.
Okay. Well, apparently, I must have like launched some werewolf energy. So, well, is there anything else I can say? Oh, she's back.
You got me so excited. I just don't know what happened. I just disappeared there. Kim Fitch-Tharp says 80 people howling. That excites her. Princess Wee says she loves this.
Okay, good.
So
excellent.
Yeah, I was supposed to be like, hey, we're approaching an hour, and then I was like, no, I'm out. I'm going to go howl. Goodbye.
Whatever you want to do, but listen, the greatest thing you can do for Mother Earth right now is to reconnect with your animal self.
Yeah.
Because until you do, you do not feel Gaia. You think you do. You go in the woods, you take pictures, you throw pop cans on the trail. You know, I watch people do this. You know, and but when you meet people, when you meet shamanic people in rural settings, they feel whether the trees are sick or not. They feel when there's poison in the water. They know when the animals are nearby. I mean, remember, the whole point of shamans long ago was to help the tribe survive. They went into trance and they left their body so they could go find the elk or the reindeer so their people would not starve. It was a real thing, right? And so if you want to connect with animals, like really connect instead of like a sort of paternalistic pat them on the head connect, right? You want to connect with animals, you have to be one. You are one, right? It's just you don't remember and you forgot, and nothing in our culture teaches us to do this. And so that's, I think, the nicest thing I can do with this book is to get people being animals in nature and all of a sudden realizing, wow, there's this vast web of interconnected energy around me, and I'm part of it. And then all of a sudden, the whole ecosystem embraces you. The animals come to you. I've had deer walk up to me when I was in that state, because all of a sudden you're no longer foreign, right? You're part of your ecosystem, which we have decided through Judeo-Christianity and mechanistic science, and I'm a big fan of science, but the idea of a mechanistic view of life where we're at the top and animals are at the bottom and plants are at the bottom is no longer valid. It's no longer valid. We are destroying ourselves because we think it's a commodity instead of our life, you know? Everything we get comes from Gaia. When we die, we go back to Gaia. If there is a legit deity, it is the Mother Earth who has literally given us everything. And we say it in our rituals, but to do it and be it takes a little more radical, you know, action, like shape-shifting.
Huzzah! I love it. I think that's a perfect way to, you know, wrap this up. You know, we need to go and reconnect with Gaia, with Mother Earth, and take care of her, and, you know, realize that we have this life and we need to live it.
If our species is going to survive, we have to reintegrate with our ecosystem, and that's it.
So true.
So get out there and howl. Be an animal. It's okay to be an animal.
You're an animal. Denny, you're an animal.
Thank you. That's the nicest thing you could say.
Nancy, you're an animal.
A gorgeous animal, right? I would not call myself a beautiful animal. But
Oh, I disagree.
I'm a happy animal.
Happy
And I'm
animal.
getting to be an old animal, which makes me very unhappy.
Oh, it's all lies and propaganda. Time is a social construct.
How true is that?
Age ain't nothing but a number.
Well, that's another animal thing. My dog doesn't know about yesterday and tomorrow. I mean, my dog lives for the moment. That my dog, food now, good, right? I mean, Eastern philosophy tells us we need to be in the moment, right? Nobody's more in the moment than animals are. They are exactly where they are.
Well, goodness, Kim wants you to know that she can't wait to hear your presentation at Starwood. And Princess Wee says you are an animal, and then Kim followed back with a beautiful and happy animal.
Oh, thank you for that.
and Manx is right here. He's with us. He's
I'll end by telling you that last night I had some friends over. We were all being very safe, and we've all had our vaccines anyway. But we're doing a role-playing game. We're doing Werewolf the Apocalypse. So the halfway through the game, because we're all playing werewolves, it gets really wild. I've got to say, like the howling and the anyway. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, we need more of that.
We do. Well, that's why Nancy is the head of the nonprofit that is Rosencomet, and that's why we make a Starwood, because we need to play.
Starwood. I have a lot of friends who go there. I've never been able to go, and now I can go. So.
Well, I mean, I would like to real quick before we end, let everybody know that tickets are on sale for Starwood 40. To get them, just go to starwoodfestival.com. And once you're there, you get to pre-register and figure out who you're camping with. Sadly, we can't have attendees under the age of 18 this year for safety reasons. We just want to protect our next generation, but trust and believe we weren't happy to make that decision. But we would love to see you if you can come. And if you can't come, there's a virtual version. It's a hybrid event, so come in person or come online. Denny's going to be joining us online. And so yeah, this Kim says this is a great way to honor Gaia and the rising moon. And Princess Wee is so happy that you're going to be part of the virtual Starwood this year, and you'll be with us in person next year when you have your next book.
That's right.
The follow-up to
Werewolf Magick. That is going to rock.
So that's the follow-up to this one.
Magic. Right.
So this is Werewolf Magic. The next one's going to be Pack Magic, and that's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm glad it came out during the pandemic, because I think everybody needed to go howl. I really do.
I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much, Mandy and Nancy, and you guys have been nothing but the best to me, and I love you all. And we'll do my best to, bring some wildness to the party.
Yay! Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Buy Denny's book. Go to werewolfmagic.com.
That's right. Buy my book, and it'll pay my way.
werewolfmagic.com with a K. Starwoodfestival.com. And we love you. Stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Oh!